Yeah, look, I think that the young kids playing in a regional competition will still get drafted, and the stats prove that. I can recall watching John McCarthy at North Hobart. He's probably one of the most exciting players that I've ever seen in the league. He was fantastic, and I'd go to the footy just to watch him play. And to have our young, exciting talent playing in a regional league may bring people back to the footy. But at the moment, they get dragged off here and there, they play with the Mariners. There have been so many attempts to do things that have failed. The Devils, you know, that's probably not a bad model either. If, you know, you're getting all your best players in the state playing with the Devils. AFL Tas couldn't manage it.
In fact, that was, as I recall, very successful. I know personally I enjoyed going along, and I can recount the day that we were in a final over at Bellerive. I think
12,000 people,
and it was exciting, wasn't it? It was exciting to be there and cheer for local boys. And sadly, sorry Steve, I think then the death of that came when we had these guys sort of flying in from North Melbourne, and that was
another bad decision.
Was a bad decision. I think that was a bad
when
decision.
The Devils died, I actually rang AFL Tas and I said to Scott Wade, I said, you give me the funding that you had for the Devils this year and I'll run the Devils out of KG5. Didn't get a look in. Not at all interested. Now, you know, I still believe today that they would have been financially successful. 12,000 people to a final, that says it all. People voted with their feet. And that's what we're talking about. You know, AFL Tas don't seem to care about the supporters and the members and the people out there. And that was a prime example of letting a club go that had potential. The reason it failed is that it was managed by AFL Tas rather than a board, like every other club in the country is usually run.
Can we learn from other sports? If we look at, sorry Paul, cricket as an example, it'd be fair to say that Tasmanian cricket fights above its weight. We've done pretty well in the national arena. That model isn't a statewide cricket model.
That's right. I mean, with cricket, the success is there, but they went through a lot of pain by having to centralise their activities in Hobart. You're obviously talking about smaller numbers of participants, but I think that you know, in Tasmania, where we have a population spread out, a small population spread out over a fairly large area, that we can't have the luxuries of having pockets here, pockets there, and pockets there. You know, that we do, if we want to, you know, be serious about elite sport and participation at the elite levels, then we do need to probably concentrate in one area. But as Steve said, the Devils model was a good model. It was a model that was supported by the people. The fact that there was some bad decision making that went along with that through personnel and alignments and things like that was most unfortunate. So I think there are solutions out there to look after the elite, the aspirational players. However, we can't sacrifice the search for that for the sake of our community clubs.
Community clubs. Yeah.
So it's fair to say then, Steve, you gentlemen and other concerned football people would love to work with anyone who wants to see a vibrant football community within this state. We're not about having a shot at anyone as such. We are concerned in that the facts are facts. People are not going to the football anymore, and we would love to see that addressed.
That's right. Absolutely. People want their club to be around in the next 50 years. Those that have been around for 100 years, like North Hobart, to be treated like they are, just isn't right. It's just not the Aussie way, if I can put it that way, perhaps. But we've just got to keep those traditions. We've got to be a cultural society, so that, you know, it was great football in those days. And I don't want to go back to the old days. Say, oh, look, you know, you're old and you want to go back to the old days. I don't necessarily want to go back to the old days, but what I wanted to see is clubs recognised for the culture and the traditions that they've built up over years, and not have it kicked in their face and say, we'll see you later, you might not exist next year.
I think an important aspect of this too is the composition of the AFL Tas board. We've got a number of people on that board who don't reside in Tasmania. I don't see members of AFL Tas board out there engaging our supporters that come along to football games, and unfortunately, from what all you do see is this bias towards trying to develop very few elite players at the expense of the community. And I think that we need to get a board that is prepared to engage the community and to look at better solutions for footy in Tasmania.
I guess we as then Tasmanians don't want to say to the rest of Australia, we don't want to follow models that work over there, but we have to understand we are a population of 500,000.
That's right.
We have the population spread across many areas, and all we're saying is, I guess, we want the best model that works for our community.
That's community relevant.
If it's a statewide or if it's that's the way to go. But if I guess we can reflect on history and see how that was, and take the best of the past going forward. Is not that the best way to go?
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah, there's no question. And let's face it, we in Tasmania don't like travelling too much.
I was about to that. I'm an unusual fellow. I'm a Tasmanian who gets up and down the highway on a regular basis. It's taken me 30 years in business now in Launceston to be recognised as Tasmanian. Yeah. And you talk to a lot of people in Tasmania and say, when's the last time you've been to Lonnie? Oh, I remember back then, it's a thermos and a fruitcake and thinking it's going to be a couple of day trip.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not the thing that you do. I mean, I live at Cremorne and that's a big deal to get into town. Yeah. So that is Tasmania, isn't it?
Oh, it's definitely an attitude that we have, and it's unfortunate, I guess, in a lot of respects. I played in the Western Border League in South Australia, and we're crossing over the border, going to Victoria and South Australia and travelling a lot of miles to get to the footy. But it was just normal for those people. It was second nature. They didn't really care. They were prepared to do it. But we're not in Tasmania for some reason. We just don't want to get on the road and travel for 2 hours if we don't have to.
Mm. So, gentlemen, it's out there. There's people who want the best for Tasmanian football, and if this is the way to create the debate to get the best outcome, well, I think that's great for Tassie football.
Well, that's our main concern.
That's right.
It really is.
We'd certainly hope that people take this on board in the way it's intended, that we're here to help, not hinder. We want to have constructive engagement. We don't need AFL Tas, trotting out people in the press that have vested interests sponsored by AFL Tas. We want to have a discussion about the model, the solutions, and more importantly, providing the opportunities for young ones to come through to apply their sporting skills in the best possible environment and sustainable environment at that.
We don't want an us and a them. We want to work together to make football relevant again in Tasmania.
That's right.
Well, and maintain clubs that have got traditions and great cultures and all that sort of business. We really should be supporting those clubs, not kicking them in the guts.
Well, I've got to say, I mean, there's something about at your club walking under that grandstand and looking up and seeing some of those dear old moth-eaten flags and seeing the photos of, Johnny Devine and that. I know, here I go, the old fellow with the grey hair, but it's pretty special. And to lose that.
Yeah.
And I love it when last year I was in Devonport. I happened to be there with Matthew Richardson because we're on a book tour. And you walk through and you see the history and the cups and things, and it's fantastic, isn't it?
It is, and it's something that you shouldn't lose.
Absolutely. Well, there we go. There's our discussion on Tasmanian football.